So yesterday we have seen definition of matrix space. So just revise. Yeah. So yesterday first we seen syllabus of MIT 4601, that is real analysis second. So there are total 5 chapters and reference book, sorry, textbook is methods of real analysis by R.R. Goldberg. So then we started first chapter, that is limits and matrix spaces. So first topic of first chapter, that is matrix spaces. So first is define metric. So let us see what is the definition of metric. Actually, metric is a mapping from m plus m to close interval 0 infinity, that is set of positive real numbers. So metric is a mapping from m cross m to set of positive real numbers and satisfy 4 conditions. A mapping which satisfies these 4 conditions, that is first condition, rho of xx should be equal to 0 for all x belongs to m. Rho of xy should be positive for all xy belongs to m, and if x is not equal to y, means if x equal to y, then rho of xy will be 0. If x is not equal to y, then rho of xy will be always positive. And third case, that is rho of xy should be equal to rho of yx. So you can call this case as symmetric condition or symmetric case. Symmetry. So third condition looks like symmetric condition. And what is fourth condition? That is triangle inequality. So triangle inequality, that is rho of xy less than equal to rho of xz plus rho of zy. It should be true for all x, y, z belongs to m. A mapping from m cos m to close interval 0 infinity which satisfy these 4 conditions is called metric on set m. So then we have seen definition of metric space. What is metric space? See, a non-empty set M with metric defined on that M combinedly forms metric space. If rho is metric for M, then the order here M rho is called metric space. So this is the definition of metric space. Non-empty set with that mapping, which is metric, combinedly forms metric space. So this is the definition of metric space. And usually will denote. So this metric space M rho simply by capital M. So we will not write M rho. If M is there, so obviously it means that metric is there with M. So always we'll write capital M is a metric space. Not a set, but it is a metric space in our course. So yesterday we have seen it. So then we have seen just 3 examples of metric spaces. That is first set of real numbers with mapping rho xy equal to mod of x minus y. So this is mod function. So what is rho of xy? It is defined by mod of x minus y. So this rho satisfies above 4 conditions of metric, and therefore it forms metric for set of real numbers. So combinedly, so set of real numbers with this absolute metric, absolute value metric forms metric space, and we denote this metric space by R1. So what is R1? R1 is a metric space with absolute value metric rho. So this is absolute value metric. So this is first example. So hope you check all these 4 conditions for this rho. So then we have seen second example, that is same set of real numbers, and we define so different mapping on R cross R to close interval 0 infinity, and it is defined by dxy equal to 0 if x equal to y, and it is equal to 1 if x not equal to y. It means that distance between x and y is always either 0 or 1. So when it is 0, if x equal to y, then distance will be 0, and if x not equal to y, then distance is 1. So what is the meaning of this? That is the distance dxy between any two distinct points xy belongs to R is always 1. Means if x and y are distinct point, then the distance is always 1. So this is discrete metric defined on set of real numbers. So hope you have checked all these four conditions for discrete metric. So combining set of real numbers with this discrete metric forms a discrete metric space. So we denote it by RD. What is RD? Set of real numbers with discrete metric T. So this metric space is called discrete metric space. So first there is R1, second there is RD. What is R1? That is see, R1 means set of real numbers with absolute whole metric and RD means set of real numbers with discrete metric. So set is same but metrics are different. So it means that. So what is conclusion of these two examples? The examples 1 and 2 show that the given set may have more than one metric. So set is same but metrics are different. So what is third example? So lastly, we have seen another example of metric space and it is RSTN. That is Euclidean n space. So RSTN, how we define it? So if we take n equal to 2, then it will be r square. If we take n equal to 3, then it will be r cube and likewise. So what is RSTN? RSTN it is set of all order n tuples of real numbers. So it contains all order n tuples x1, x2 up to xn where xi belongs to R and here I varies from 1 to Tn. So it is there. And we define metric for this set RSTN. So how we define this? So we define row xy equal to summation k varies from 1 to n xk minus yk square and whole its power half. So that is in term wise you can write that is x1 minus y1 square. If you take k equal to 1, then you will get this first term that is x1 minus y1 its square. If you take k equal to 2, so you will get x2 minus y2 its square plus up to if you take k equal to n, so you will get xn minus yn its square and whole its power half. So it is there. So this is in summation form, and if you split it term wise, so it will be like this. So question was, so rho forms metric for RSTM. So it satisfies all four conditions of metric. So already we have checked all these four conditions. Yes. And last condition, that is triangle inequality. So for that we use Minkowski inequality. So it is well-known inequality. We just imported it from same book. So it is out of our syllabus. Its proof is not there. So using Minkowski inequality. So fourth condition directly satisfied for this metric, and hence this row satisfy all four conditions, and therefore RSTN forms metric space with respect to row, and this metric space is called Euclidean. So RSTN is called Euclidean n space. So yeah, so this part so already we have seen in previous lecture. So yeah, so you can do some homework on this part which we have seen. So up till we have just seen definition of metric, then metric space, and some examples on metric. So using this part directly you can solve this example. So let us do it at home. So first question is that show that if rho is a metric for set m, then so prove that 2 row also forms metric for m. If rho is a metric, then 2 into row also forms metric for m. So let us do it as homework. Second, if rho and sigma are two metrics for capital M, so M is a non-empty set, And then through that, rho plus sigma also forms metric for M. Just you have to check these four conditions of metric. So let us do it at home. Very simple. So just using definition of metric, so you can prove it. If you have any problem, so you can ask me. So next point, that is 1.2. So limits in metric spaces. So this is second part of this chapter. See, yeah, yes. So this is first chapter, that is limits in metric spaces. So first part of this chapter is metric spaces, and second part, that is limits in metric space. So let us see second, that is 1.2, limits in metric spaces. What is yeah, yes. So 1.2, that is limits in metric spaces. So what is the definition of limit of function in metric space? So these are the regular definitions, but just we'll see these definitions in metric spaces. We have seen all these definitions in set of real numbers. So limit of function in metric space. So we say that fx approaches to L. So where what is capital L? Capital L is element of capital M2. So here F is a mapping from. So obviously F is a mapping from capital M1 to capital M2. So capital M1 is metric space and capital M2 is metric space. So M1 will be metric space with respect to metric row 1, and M2 is a metric space with respect to metric row 2. So in, see, so we say that Fx approaches to L. So L is element of capital M2. So Fx will be always element of capital M2. So as x approaches to N, when we say Fx approaches to L, as x approaches to a, if given epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that, see, so row 2 of fxl, see, row 2 of fxl should be strictly less than epsilon whenever row xa should is strictly less than delta. So obviously it is distance. It looks like a distance. So obviously it is positive. So it is strictly greater than 0. It is there. So instead of this, we have seen. So in real numbers, so in real numbers means you can consider it as R1, absolute value metric space. So in that, what is metric? There is distance, that is mod of x minus 1. So if we replace row 2 by a set of real numbers, yeah, that is absolute value metric, then obviously this will be mod of fx minus L less than epsilon whenever mod of x minus a is less than delta. So that was our usual definition of limit in set of real numbers, which was seen previous course. That is limit of sequence or limit of function. So here we are defining limit of function in general metric space. It's okay. See, so in this case, so in short we can write, so limit of fx as x tends to a is equal to L, or simply we'll write fx tends to L as x tends to a. So these are usual notations. So you are familiar with these notations. See, usual notations of limit. Limit of function. So next definition, that is what is limit of sequence in metric space. So previous was the definition of limit of function in metric space. So next, what is the definition of limit of sequence in metric space? So let's suppose M row be a metric space, and Sn be a sequence of points in M. So it is very important. Sn is sequence of points in M. In previous course, we have seen sequences of real numbers. Means instead of M, we have taken set of real numbers. So in particular, so we say that Sn averages to L, where L is again element of capital M. It is point of M. So usually or in future, so we'll call element of capital M as a points. So this word points stands for elements of capital M because elements of capital M looks like points. So we'll call these elements as points. So we say that Sn approaches to L, where L is element of N, as N approaches to infinity. So what is the definition of limit of sequence Sn is a L? If for given epsilon is greater than 0, there exists n0 belongs to set of natural numbers. So n, that is set of natural numbers, is that. Same definition, but in general, we are taking rho instead of mod. So rho of Sn and L stick less than epsilon whenever n greater than equal to n0. So in real sequence, or sorry, in previous course, we define limit of sequence Sn, that is real sequence Sn. So we define for given epsilon is greater than 0, there exists n0 belongs to n such that mod of Sn minus L is less than epsilon whenever see n greater than equal to n0. So that was the definition of limit of sequence Sn. But sequence Sn was sequence of real numbers. So here sequence Sn is not sequence of real numbers, but in general it is sequence of points of M, and M is a metric space. So in particular, if you take M equal to R1, then the definition is nothing but definition of limit of sequence of real numbers. So in that case, you can replace the definition in this way. So this is general definition, and this definition of limit of sequence yes is real. Just a minute. Yeah. So next, so we can write limit of Sn equal to L as n tends to infinity, or Sn tends to L as n tends to infinity. So these are usual notations. So you can write usual notation of limit of sequence in metric space. So it is here. Next, obviously, so we are seeing all the definitions in sequence, which we have already seen in real numbers. Real numbers. Sequence of real numbers. That is in previous course, Unity 501. So what is the definition of Cauchy sequence in metric space? Already we have seen definition of Cauchy sequence in real numbers. So let M rho be a metric space, and let Sn be any sequence of points in M. So we say that Sn is Cauchy sequence if for given epsilon is greater than 0, there exists n0 belongs to n such that rho of Sn, Sn and Sn, n term of sequence Sn and m term of sequence Sn is greater than epsilon whenever n greater than equal to n0. So if m and n are strictly greater than 0 or greater than equal to n0, then always rho Sn and Sn should be strictly less than epsilon. It should be true for every epsilon greater than 0. See, means for every epsilon greater than 0, you should find fixed positive natural number or fixed positive integer such that So whenever yum and yum is going to n0, so rho sm and sm should be less than epsilon. So this is definition of Cauchy sequence. Just we are revising this definition in matrix spaces. All these definitions we have seen. The proofs of sorry, Following theorem is identical to that of in real analysis 1. All this part we have seen in real analysis 1, that is MIT 501. So similar definitions we have seen already. So full statement of this theorem, let Young-Rowe be a matrix space. If Sn is convergent sequence of points of Young, then Sn is Cauchy. So obviously, what is the definition of convergent sequence? If limit of sequence exists, then we say that exists and it is finite. Then we say that that sequence is convergent. And what is the definition of divergent sequence? If limit of sequence it may not exist, or it may be plus infinity or minus infinity. So in that case, we call it as divergent sequence. So what is statement of this theorem? Let Young-Rowe be a matrix space and Sn is convergent sequence of points of Young, then Sn is Cauchy. It means that every convergent sequence is Cauchy sequence. So alternately, you can write this statement as, see, that is, in matrix space, every convergent sequence is Cauchy sequence or is Cauchy. Converse of this theorem not necessarily true here, but already we have seen in previous course. Converse of this theorem is also true. It means that every Cauchy sequence is convergent. Every convergent sequence is Cauchy, and every Cauchy sequence is convergent. So this part proof of this theorem already we have seen, and in similar way you can prove here also. So it is straightforward. So yeah. So I'm giving you some homework again. So you should do it at home. Yes. So first, show that a sequence of points in. So you should write down these questions. Show that a sequence of points in any metric space cannot converge to two distinct points. It means that so limit of sequence is unique. So what is the meaning of this example? So limit of sequence is always unique. Hence, if it is not unique, then you'll get some contradiction. So solution is same as already we have seen this example as a theorem in previous course. Group is there, so you can refer it. Very simple. Second, show that if Sn is Cauchy sequence in a matrix space M row, then sequence row S1 Sn. So here we are considering the sequence. So Sn is Cauchy sequence. Yeah. So Sn is Cauchy sequence, and here we are considering sequence row S1 Sn. Means we are fixing first term and second term we are varying. So row S1 Sn. N varies from 1 to infinity of real numbers is bounded sequence. So the sequence is bounded because Cauchy sequence is always bounded. So here you should use this. So Cauchy sequence it's always bounded. So using that sequence Sn will be bounded. So Sn is bounded. So you have to just prove that row S1 Sn is bounded using sequence Sn is bounded. Very simple. Just you have to use definition of bounded sequence. And third example, show that every Cauchy sequence on in RD is convergent. What is RD? RD means discrete matrix space. So in discrete matrix space, every Cauchy sequence is convergent. In general, it is not true, but in RD it is true. R1 in R1 it is also true. So you should do it as homework. So this end of first chapter, that is matrix spaces. So we'll start next chapter, that is continuous functions on matrix spaces. So just see syllabus again. So if you consider weightage of the chapters, so first chapter it contains just introduction to matrix space. So in first chapter we have seen, so definition of matrix space. Just a minute. Yeah. So matrix spaces, limits in matrix spaces. So second chapter, it is also very short. So in second chapter, we'll see functions, continuous on matrix spaces, and yeah, open sets and closed sets. So these two open sets and closed sets are very important in next chapter, that is connectedness, completeness, and compactness. So chapter 2 is introduction to chapter 3, and chapter 4 and 5 are totally different, which are independent of these first three chapters. So if you consider weightage in star, so first chapter I will give single star in terms of weightage. Second chapter I will give two stars, and chapter 3 I will give three stars. And for chapter 4, that is calculus, which is nothing but Riemann integral. So I will give 4 stars for this chapter, and I will give just not a star but a single star. Oh, sorry, yeah, a half star. Yeah, I will give half star for first chapter, star for last chapter, 2 star for second chapter, 3 stars for third chapter, and 4 stars for fourth chapter. So if we consider syllabus, oral syllabus, so this will be weightage. See, so if your question paper is objective and there are just 25 MCQ questions, then what will be this weightage? So 4 plus 3, that is 7, 9, that's 10. Yeah. So this will be weightage. It means that 40%, 30%, 20%, this is just 5%, it will be 20%, it will be 30%, it will be 40%, and it will be 10%. So you'll see, yeah, with that. Approximately, it will be like this. So it may be 10% or 5%. So that depends on this. So it is just star band. So this is just weightage of the chapters. So which chapter is important and which is less important. So you can observe it. So fourth chapter is most important, that is Riemann integration. So afterwards we'll see it. So we'll continue second chapter. I will share so these notes as a PDF in WhatsApp group as well as Google Classroom. So don't worry. So today I will share. So second chapter. So in second chapter we will see 2.1, that is functions continuous on matrix spaces. 2.2, that is open sets. 2.3, that is closed sets. So this is second chapter. So functions continuous on matrix spaces, that is 2.1. Open sets, that is 2.2, and 2.3, that is closed sets. So this is syllabus of second chapter. So just start first, that is 2.1, functions continuous on matrix spaces. So before that, we'll see some definitions. So first definition, that is definition of open ball. What is open ball? It is also called open sphere. So alternately, you can write open sphere. See, what is the definition? So let YAM row be a matrix space. So if A is element of capital M and r is strictly greater than 0. Obviously, it is not just strictly greater than 0, but it is positive real number. So r is real number and which is positive real number. So a is any point of metric space capital M rho and r is positive real number. Then this notation, that is BAR. So capital B, so the square bracket, small a, comma, small r, and this square bracket complete. So this is notation for open wall about a with radius r. So how we'll read it? So it is open wall about a with radius r is defined to be. So what is the definition of this open wall? So is defined to be the set of all points in M whose distance to a is less than r, is strictly less than r. So in set notation, so we'll write it as, so what is BAR? So BAR means open ball about A, means A is center and R is radius. So open ball about A with radius R. So it contains all points of M. So it contains all x belongs to M. How? Such points whose distance from A is less than R. So this open ball contains all those points of metric space M whose distance from A is less than R. So obviously R will be radius of it. It looks like circle and its radius will be R. So now, so we call BAR the open wall of radius R about A. So this is the definition of open wall. So just see how it looks like geometrically. So let us see. Actually, so you can consider, see, metric space M, just minute. Yeah. So it's okay. Yeah. So let's consider. So it is capital M, that is matrix space M. So in matrix space M, so what is the meaning of open wall about A with radius R? So this is, so you can see this circle, you can see. So it is open wall about A with radius R. So it means that all points of capital M whose distance from A is less than R. So all these points, so collection of all these points is nothing but this open ball. So geometrically you can see the open ball. What is the open ball? So in short, that is, see. So what is the meaning of if y is element of, what is the meaning of y is element of BAR? So when we say y is element of BAR, then distance between this y and a should be strictly less than r. So then rho of a and y should be strictly less than r. So this is condition for. So which points will be there in this open ball? Whose distance from a is strictly less than r. So all these points will be elements, will be, yeah, in this set BR, and it looks like it is open because it is strictly less than. So these points, boundary points are not there. See, these boundary points means if point is here, suppose this point B, which is on this boundary, then what is the distance between A and B? So in that case, rho of A and B will be exactly R. See, those points are not there. It contains only those points whose distance is strictly less than R. Means these boundary points are not there, and that's why this set is open set, and it looks like sphere, and therefore it is called open sphere. So it contains all points inside this sphere whose distance is less than r. So next, Yeah, this is the definition of open sphere or open ball, you can call it. So next definition, that is continuous function at a point. So this is a regular definition. Already we have seen it in, yeah, differential calculus, real analysis, and so many times you have seen. The function f is continuous at a belongs to m1. What is m1? So obviously m1 here is a matrix space. So it is matrix space. So we are defining continuous function at a point in matrix space. So small a is any point of capital M1, means M1 is matrix space. So if limit of fx as extends to a is equal to f of a, then we call f is continuous at a. Yes. So this is the definition of continuous function, and this is, yeah. So next theorem gives us three alternate definitions for continuity at a point. So again, we will state this theorem without proof, because proof of this theorem is so out of our syllabus. For statement of this theorem, see, the function f is continuous at a belongs to m1 if and only if, see, anyone and hence all of the following conditions hold. It means that if a is true, then b is true, c is true. It means that a implies b, b implies c, and again c implies a. Means all these three conditions are simultaneously true. If one is true, then all these three are true. So what is first? So given epsilon is greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that, it means that for given epsilon is greater than 0, so this is regular definition. That is definition of continuous function at a, that is limit of f of x as extends to a should be equal to f of a. So if you write definition of limit in epsilon delta form, and then this condition a will be there, it means that given epsilon is greater than 0, there exists delta is greater than 0 such that whenever, sorry, so root of fx and fa is greater than epsilon whenever rho of x and a is greater than delta. It means that whenever x, distance between x and a is greater than delta, then always distance between fx and fa should be less than epsilon. So this is nothing but definition of limit fx as extends to a is equal to fa. So this is a. What is b? So the inverse image under f of any open ball about fa with radius epsilon. It means that open ball about fa contains an open ball inverse image of this ball. Actually, this is, suppose f is a mapping from m1 to m2. Then this is open sphere in M2. Then what is its inverse image? Its inverse image will be in M1. And where is A? So A is element of M1. So basically, if you draw open ball about A with radius delta, so then inverse image of this open sphere contains this open sphere. So that is second condition. The inverse image under F of any open ball about FA with radius epsilon contains an open ball A with radius delta about A. That is second condition. What is third condition? Whenever sequence xn, so obviously xn is sequence of points in M1 converging to A. Whenever sequence xn converges to point A, then the sequence, that is sequence of images of xn, that is sequence fxn, and varies from 1 to infinity of points in M2 should converge to Fa. So that is, you can alternately write this third condition, that is, if xn converges to A, it should imply that sequence fxn converges to f of a. So this is definition of continuous function at point A. So it means that if A is true, then B and C are true. If B is true, then remaining two are true. Or if C is true, then A and B both are true. It means that these three A, B, and C are simultaneously true. It means that these three are alternate definitions of continuous function at point A. So you can consider see these statements as a definition of continuity. So you have three definitions of continuity. So first definition, that is in limit form. Second definition, so you can write these definitions of continuity. Limit form, second open ball form, and third, that is sequence form. Why it is taking so much time? Yeah. So third condition is nothing but definition of continuous function at a point in limit. Sorry, it is in sequence form. So next, the yeah, the previous theorem provides alternate definitions for continuity at a point. So yeah, we'll stop here. So we'll continue next part in next lecture.